Welcome back. You're watching The Globe here on SABC News Channel. I'm Tsipiso Makwetla. A high court in Kenya has suspended a government directive seeking to bar unvaccinated people from accessing in-person services in state offices. The petition filed by businessman Enock Aura said the directive was unconstitutional and discriminatory. The government directive was to come into effect next week. The High Court Judge Anthony Mirima said his ruling will remain in force until the case is heard on the 4th of January 2022 and until a decision is made. In November, Health Minister Mutahi Kagwe said the directive is aimed at getting more Kenyans to get the jab. The government has set a target of vaccinating some 10 million Kenyans by the end of this year. Only 8.1 million people have received a COVID-19 vaccine and more than 3 million have received 2 doses. Now, the suspension of the directive also comes days after a number of hotels and malls announced that they will not allow unvaccinated Kenyans into their premises. Let's speak more about this now. We're joined by international law, constitutional and administrative law expert, Advocate Evans Ogada. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Advocate Ogada. Just your comments on the ruling by the court and the reasons given.
Well, good evening from Nairobi. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. You can go ahead.
Thank you very much. What was issued by the court today was a conservatory order. This is an injunction. Basically, this is a temporary stop to what was to take place from next week. The government ban that was to take place from next week on the 21st. So the ruling has the effect of stopping the government ban from taking effect until the whole case is heard and determined.
So what you're saying is that
what we call a conservatory order. Yes, it's a conservatory order, yes.
Talk to me about the effect of this reprieve. Will it give government enough time to chew on the reasons behind it has come up with this proposal? Because obviously it can't enforce it into law at the moment, given the fact that feelings are mixed about whether or not it's prudent.
Well, conservatory orders in their nature are usually not conclusive of the final outcome. They are basically a temporary reprieve so that a party may benefit from a conservatory order but end up losing with the hearing of the main case. In terms of government chewing over this and changing its mind, I don't think so. This is a government that has been subject of many losses in court, and they have always done things the way they want.
Just talk to us about its ability to implement this directive should it find favor in court. I'm thinking of countries like Germany, for instance, where even the government there is struggling to try and impose these kind of mandatory laws.
Well, those are some of the questions that some of us have been asking, because the vaccination uptake has been quite low. So many people are not going for the vaccination. We have people not getting vaccinated for a number of reasons. We have those who are not going for the vaccine due to health reasons. They have pre-existing conditions like diabetes, blood pressure. We have those who are not taking the vaccine for lack of information. They are not satisfied that the vaccine is a foolproof panacea for COVID-19. We have Omicron that is now said to be here with us and is spreading. Can these vaccines help us with Omicron? Those are the kind of questions people are asking.
From a legal and human rights perspective, talk to us about the challenges that government might face. And I'm just thinking about, it seems a contradiction in terms to say to people, you will not be allowed to access in-person services like health services if you're not vaccinated. Are you then not ensuring that people find themselves in where they have further health complications? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the first question that some of us asked initially when we heard of this pronouncement by government was, under what law are you making the pronouncement? Because you cannot purport to stop people from accessing government services and not cite the law. There has to be a provision of law supporting the pronouncement by the cabinet secretary in charge of health. Secondly, the other challenge will be how do you enforce this? Because we have so many establishments out there, because this ban was not only to apply for government services, but to also private establishments. We had bars, restaurants that had been directed to demand of citizens proof of vaccination. So how the logistics of this was going to be rolled out, it remains to be seen. It's going to be a formidable challenge. I don't know how they're going to achieve this. It's going to be a tricky affair. The legal question will be, what is the law? And if they don't satisfy the court that they have a law support.
Let me ask you this question, and I'm hoping that
this is as good as dead.
So, as I was saying earlier on, it's somewhat contradictory if it's government's responsibility, its purview to ensure that it grants me life-saving health services, and yet to banish me to being medically vulnerable by saying you are not able to access these in-person services because you're not vaccinated. What is the law then regarding that?
Well, there is no law supporting, from my reading of the law, there's no law supporting the treatment of vulnerable people, sick people from accessing critical government services like healthcare, for example. Under Article 43 of the Constitution, it is an obligation, for example, for the state, for everyone, in fact, to ensure that critical emergency care is given. So, for example, if we have somebody who needs urgent medical care from a hospital, will you ban this person from accessing medical care and urgent life-saving care? It's a contradiction. Governments in Africa are usually surprises. They make pronouncements without thinking through, and this is a typical example of that.
So that's governments, but we also know that there's debate within other circles, business circles, beyond the politicians, the community themselves. Some people say it's curtailing the right to choice, but others saying public health safety must be considered first. Is there an argument to be made here? We know that individual rights are protected, but not if they infringe on the greater good or greater majority. But then there's also the fact that majority rights cannot necessarily supersede those of individual rights. So how can the balance be struck here? Businesses, some are encouraging government in its move, and some are saying, no, this is draconian.
Well, the public good argument is one that is very difficult for the state to make, because if, for example, the vaccine was against COVID, it would have been very easy to persuade people to go for the vaccine without the coercion. But you see, for us in Kenya, COVID has been handled from a very wrong perspective. The government has been very ready to bear the strong arm of the state, the coercive arm of the state, the police, the security arms, to enforce COVID measures. The way you do this is to partner with the people, educate them, persuade them that this is something that we have to do together. Other than that, you're not going to win this. And the brutal force of the police, coercion, tactics, that will not work. The question remains is, the vaccine has not been proven to be effective. We have stories on media of a fourth round of vaccines to control the spread of the latest variant. It means the vaccine is not working. Why is it that you want to force what's not working on people? Those are the questions being asked.
Okay. Now, for those who are keen to get the jab, is there enough supply to meet demand?
Oh, yes. The government, and credits to the state, we've had quite a considerable number of supplies come in the last week. We've had 2 jet loads of supplies come in of Pfizer and AstraZeneca. We have points all over the city for people to get vaccinated. So to their credit, they've tried to roll out vaccination points. The question that they have not dealt with is the fear and the convincing of people that these vaccines actually do work.
As you say, effective education programs are needed. Would that also apply to restrictive measures? And I'm talking about traveling and a cap on the number of people who are allowed to gather in a certain space, whether inside or outside. Would that not be more effective than trying to change the law and make it mandatory for everybody to be vaccinated?
Well, we had those in place a couple of weeks back. We had a restriction. It's the very same politicians, some of whom are in government. These politicians have been part and parcel of those who are not respecting the rules on gathering. We are facing our elections next year. We have many political rallies and organized meetings without respecting COVID regulations, COVID-19 regulations. So the government needs to crack down on that. That would be a good way to start.
Leading by example, absolutely. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Really, really appreciate it that there is international law, constitutional and administrative law expert, Advocate Evans Ogada, speaking about a court decision in Kenya that has halted a government bid to force people in Kenya to vaccinate.